welcome to On Mute Now podcast. It's our season 2, episode 3. If you've joined us before, thanks for coming back. If this is your first time, thanks for joining us. If you're watching us on YouTube, please go right ahead, like, comment, and subscribe, and click the notification bell so that whenever we make a new upload, you are notified. And if you're listening to us on a podcast audio platform, please like and follow us as well. My name is Natasha Lacham, and with me are my fellow co-hosts, Angela Ifanlaja.
Hi.
Yolanda Robinson Green.
Hello, everyone.
And Raquel McKee.
Hello, everybody.
Excellent. And today's episode, we will be discussing messages to our younger selves. Yes, this promises to be a very interesting episode, and I'm looking forward to hearing some things from my friends. So we're just going to go right ahead and jump into it. In terms of messages to your younger self, guys, you can use any particular age you'd like, or you can choose a decade of your life. So if you want to say when I was 18 or in my 20s or in my 30s, though we're only 25, so we can't say when we're in our 30s. So you feel free to pick whatever age or decade you want to be. We're going to start with you, Raquel. Are you going to pick a particular age or a decade?
I was planning to kind of jump around a little bit. Jump around.
Oh, hey, it's all good.
That sounds like a blast from your younger self.
That's right, because we can learn lessons at any particular age or decade. So that's a good one, Raquel. Now, what about you, Yolanda? Any particular age or decade?
My younger self is even yesterday, okay?
That's right.
So I'm probably going to be going back and forth. I'm going to stick with probably the most prominent in my mind, and they're going to kill me, my high school years, because I've got some girls to really take to task.
Okay. Brilliant. I'm looking forward. What about you, Angela?
Yeah, I think I'll probably take the decade from my high school years, maybe about from that period onwards into my mid-20s.
Yeah. I think I'm going with that as well. I will start with maybe 16 to 17 to mid-20s as well. That's a very formidable age.
20s? Aren't you just 25?
That's right. I'm just 25. So yeah. So anything from 17 to last week.
I can't even imagine remembering anything at all from primary school. Those years have just disappeared.
Oh, I remember.
I remember the only thing, not the only thing, but the things I remember most about primary school was playing these little hand games in the yard. That's nothing what I remember.
There ain't nothing much that could have gone wrong in those years, I think.
I'm telling you, it's all about playing and fun. Brilliant.
Not for me, but hey.
Okay. Well, we're going to dive right on into it. What do you think your life would look like or be like when you were that particular age that you chose, Raquel?
Well, I'm going to go probably I'm going to go way back for this one, because when I was very young, as probably up to age 10, people used to ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? As they do. And I had learned very quickly that the right answer was, I want to be a pediatrician, or some kind of, I want to be a doctor, that kind of answer. So I don't even think I fully knew what a pediatrician did, but that was the line. And so back in that day, that's what I would have said. So, yeah.
Excellent. And what about you, Yolanda? What did you think your life was like?
That was definitely not the right answer for me. From very, very early, I was determined that I was going to break all the status quos out there. So from very early back in my mind, I always wanted to be those backup dancers that we saw on music videos.
Yes.
And then at one point in time, it became an air hostess because I wanted to travel the world and I wanted to wear pretty makeup. But when I got to a more, I suppose, wiser period in my life, maybe it transitioned into something possibly more sensible. Well, that's not to say being an air hostess is not sensible, but I mean, the backup dancer definitely went away for good.
She wanted to be a dancehall queen at that
time.
Exactly.
I feel you. And you, Angela?
So I think when I was really young, I wanted to be a teacher. because I bossed everybody around, and I think that was kind of like the best job to have, tell everybody what to do. But then I got to sort of, I think it was 13 or 14, we did one of these tests in school, and I don't know whether you guys had anything like that, but you had to answer some questions and you put it into a machine and it magically came out and told you what you wanted to be. And mine came out with a couple of them, and one said lawyer, and I thought, that's interesting. And that was actually the first time that my eyes kind of opened to that, and I went with it. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well
Excellent.
done.
Yeah. Well, for myself, I think the very first thing that I remember from ever since I could have a conscious thought of what I wanted to be when I grew up was an actress. And maybe as about between 6 to 8.
Drama queen.
Yes. And I'm still bringing the drama, but and then you come to realize, you're a young girl living on an island. The chances of getting to Hollywood are very slim. So so that quickly went away, and then I thought about being a dancer, not a backup dancer, but just a dancer in general.
Not just a dancer.
That's right. Thank you very much, Raquel. A dancer, a performer.
Well, that means it means you and Angela kind of scored, but Raqueline and I.
Well, yes, I scored until my knee decided to take me out of the running. But I digress. Yes. And have you actually realized, just following on from that, have you realized any of the things that you thought you were going to be? I know for some of us what the answers are going to be, but just let our audiences know. Have any of the things that you thought you might be or do, or what your life might look like, actually happened? Anyone can jump right in. Angela, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so from that sort of secondary school time, it was heading towards that law path. And so I did, wanted to be a barrister and went for it and had a lot of favor and grace, and God just blessed me in that area. And so had a career in that. Then I kind of transitioned. So I'm now sort of still in the law, but transitioned in-house because it just, at a point in time as life goes on, you pivot as to what works best for you. But maybe we'll get into this later, but there's something that I'm doing now, like a big thing I'm doing now that I was absolutely determined I was never going to do, but I found myself in it now. So that's interesting. But yeah, certainly realized the ambition to be a professional in law. Yeah.
Brilliant. And you, Raquel?
Well, I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to chop and change today. So I'm going to look at what happened when I was a teenager. It was when I had finished fifth form that I guess I had to make a real decision about what I would do next. And it was at that point I admitted to my mom, that I wanted to be a teacher. And I still am today. So in that sense, yes, I definitely have realized that dream. I'm living the dream.
Excellent. Brilliant. And you, Yolande?
It's kind of been a really strange journey for me. I suppose when I got to the end of secondary school, where you've gotten your subjects, as they say, that's when the real thought of what you want to be come to mind. And so people tend to gravitate towards the subjects that they would have been performing well in school. And so for me, I ran away from sciences because I didn't want the competition that it brought with the brightest and the best. And so I went and I did business. I did economics, accounting, and I was pretty good. So at that point in time, I thought, hey, I'm going to be an economist. That's what I really want to do. And lo and behold, I started teaching and applying for scholarships, and I got 2 scholarships. One to study economics in a country that spoke a different language, i.e. Spanish. I was pretty good at Spanish. And somewhere out of the blue, a mistaken scholarship, which I wouldn't explain, that was offered to study media in Jamaica. And I thought, media, I love to talk. I am going to do this thing. And I studied media. It was absolutely the best years of my learning life. Absolutely enjoyed it. And then somehow I'm here because I have to admit that in my heart, buried somewhere, was always that vision that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I always just thought that it was for the elite, or how, for the Joneses, the ones that could afford it. And it wasn't going to be for me. And people had put me off, like, you have to do so much reading. And I'm here today studying law and absolutely really enjoying it as well. So I don't know. Life is strange.
I'm just I'm just here thinking, Yolanda, that we have so many similarities in our background, because I think when I was in third form, that's when we had to choose our, we call them streams in my day, whether you're going to go the business stream or the science stream. Now, anybody that knows me knows that I'm germaphobe and I am OCD. And so the sciences was, woo! The people who are going to study to do, to do medicine and stuff like that, they're the ones that were doing the chemistry and those kind of things. And I was like, no, I'll take the business stream. The business and the languages went together in my school. So I did the Spanish and all the business courses. But when I was in third form, I did history. And I remember we had an assignment where we had to pick a particular period from history and report on it, as if it was happening right now. And so my best friend and I at the time, we chose, I think it was the French Revolution or something, and we were reporting on it like it was live. So I did a whole newscast with it and everything, and that went down such a treat that he was like, "Well, have you ever thought about da 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 da?" But at that time, I was like, "No, I'm thinking about going down the business stream because I was thinking about the moolah." And things like that. So I was more focused on business and history because I was also told that you had to have a history in order to do law. So I was thinking either business or law. So that's where my mind was. And so I started down that stream. But as we all know, I ended up doing media with still the love for law in the background. Maybe I can marry them both and do media law. Who knows? Right?
Connection, right? Because I remember one of the things that I always hear was that, if you want to be a lawyer, there's an element of acting involved in what you're doing. There's an element of performance. So it doesn't surprise me at all that you've got those things running parallel.
I'm telling you, but funny enough, when I went to Jamaica to study dance, I won't even get into how I did that. I argued every single grade I got. I argued for it. And this lady was like, "You sure you want to be a dancer or a lawyer?" So it's just funny how things overlap. But just moving right along, ladies, what has been the most surprising thing you've learned about yourself now that you wouldn't have thought back then at that age that you chose?
Look, I'm going to jump right in because honestly, I'm not surprised. I'm just the person that right now the lessons I tell myself every day is be fearless. I am fearless. I was always fearless. And the reason I have always been that way, this might seem odd to some people, when you are the smallest or the shortest person in any class, you better be heard. And
you make up for the mouth.
Oh yeah. And so for me, I'm gonna be heard. So I'm fearless in everything. I'm a risk taker and I've always been that way. So I don't believe that I've learned anything that is unsurprising about myself.
Okay, we'll jump to Raquel. Have you learned anything that has surprised yourself?
Yes, I think a little bit of background here. My parents separated and divorced when I was in primary school. That's what I was alluding to earlier. So yes, things can go seriously wrong. And that period of my life was quite troubled. And I think I internalized a lot of stuff and always felt as though, there was some kind of rejection or some kind of barrier around my life that would prevent me from ever having the best life. And now, where I am now, I'm definitely learning nobody's putting any boundaries around my life. God's got me. Nobody's putting any boundaries around my life.
Amen, sister. Yes. And you, Angela?
Yeah, I think mine is similar to Raquel's actually, because when I was growing up as well, we were in some circumstances for quite a few years of our lives where it was tough. My mom was raising us on her own for quite some years. And, people would say things around, the statistics, how are these children going to turn out, that sort of stuff. And there was a lot that I internalized as well, because you were kind of in survival mode. You just had to get on and make things happen. And so tough, but then didn't realize that there were a lot of emotions that rather than processing, I was bottling up. So as I kind of transitioned and got older, that sort of bottling up and putting up a front to just get on with life became kind of being quite hardened and not having much expectations as far as marriage was concerned. But then I went through a process when I kind of just got closer to God and began to understand what his perspective was on marriage and things like that. And I went through a process of healing, which I think was continuous for quite some time, to the point where I could then envision having a marriage and enjoying that marriage. So that was certainly a process of transformation for me. Whereas at the age of something like 18, I was saying to my family, nah, I'm not getting married. Don't expect me to.
Sorry, I'm just gonna have to. Sorry, Angela, Tassa, can I just jump in? Two things that Angela said, I just want to say quickly. I'm taking it back. I do have a lesson to learn, and it's come off the cusp of Angela saying that she mastered the art of putting up a front. That is a lesson I need to learn. I do not wear any mask at all, and therefore I'm taking it back. I've got to learn the art of diplomacy, whatever it is, wearing a mask when it's needed. So take that.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that, Angela, because as you were speaking, I was laughing to myself because I had similar thoughts when I was 16. When you're 16, you think 21 sounds so grown and so together. I was like, ooh, when I'm 21, I'm going to be married. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to do that. When I hit 18, I was like, 21 is on the corner. I was like, oh, no. And then I hit 2021. I was like, marriage is not for me. I like traveling. I like living in different countries. I've lived in different countries. And that was how I saw my life. I'd like, for me, ideally, I spend 5 years in one country, 5 years and just be like that. So I just thought, ain't nobody's tying me down. I'm not doing anything. I'm just doing me. Right. And then I was like, oh, really? Wow. So I'm sure if my 21-year-old self would see me now, I'd be like, you're living where? Doing what? What? How long have you lived there? Really?
To move on.
Yes. So that is rather surprising, but they say never, right? Because life surprises you. And just to continue on, ladies, can you share 2 of your favorite memories from that age or decade of your life? And why are those memories special for you? I'll start with Raquel.
Okay, the first one that comes to my mind is actually performing as a part of Resurrection band at the I think it's called the Alpha concert, which was the very first concert of the year, and it was like the big deal in Jamaica. And I think it's probably got similar kind of connections of feeling as though I couldn't live that good life, but here I was actually being a performing artist in a major public performance in Jamaica. I'll stop there for now, and I'll come back to the other one later if I can think of anything else.
Excellent. You, Yolande?
I mean, well, I'm gonna go with softer memory and the harder memory. And so for me, in my secondary school years, because I didn't have a sister or a lot of girls in my home, perhaps just my cousin, I had, as I've mentioned in the last podcast, 7 girls that we were a gang, and we were so bent on being blood sisters that we had pricked our fingers and stuck them together and call ourselves the blood sisters, and they're going to be listening to this podcast. And so for me, a lot of my fondest memories in my secondary school years surrounds the time I spent with those girls, so much so that when we graduated, it was a bawling session. You wailed, you travailed. And the memories are floodlight football matches that we organized, parties that we organized as 7 girls, the things that we did. Okay, you don't want to know, but my memory, the love, the connection that I had, because they covered for me, they fought for me, they cried when I cried, they laughed when I laughed. And so it was real for me. And then the next big memory, which was a later time in my life, was actually just not really so much a memory, but an opportunity to realize that, hey, things can happen. So after I had somehow managed to be the youngest of the 7 girls, but the only one to have fallen pregnant very early. So I had 2 children very, very early in my teenage years, and somehow it seemed like my life had fallen apart. And because of people that I knew, I was able to start over and I got a job as a teacher. And when I started teaching, I got this magical scholarships, not one, but 2 in my lap. And I realized that my life wasn't over. And so I
Amen.
could still
Such
be
an
what I wanted
encouragement.
to be. So
Amen. Excellent. And you,
Yes,
Angela?
really encouraging. Yeah. So I remember that when we were younger, so we couldn't really afford to travel outside of the country. But my mom, bless her, she took us any and everywhere around the country. Like, every city, every town, every seaside, every attraction. I remember, going to the zoo, Madame Tussauds, all over the place. So she made the most of what we could have. And so it wasn't as if you don't have money to go abroad, but you really, and I just remember looking at some pictures recently where I'm sitting with my siblings, like, oh, I remember when we were doing that. And I just realized that, in her own way, she just helped us to make so many special memories in spite of, sort of the tough times. And then I also will be forever grateful for my years when I was doing my A levels. Because when I was in secondary school, I lacked confidence. I wore a big mask for various reasons. Couldn't really be myself in many ways. But when I finished my GCSEs, I then moved away from the area. We were still living in the area, but I got a scholarship to go to do my A levels in a school that was totally outside of the area. And it was a girls' school. Spent 2 years there doing my A levels. And in those years, confidence just grew in me. I had a wonderful lady who was the principal at the time, and she just really encouraged me. I was exposed to a lot of things that I would never have been exposed to, and I got away from people that I would have felt the need to keep trying to, to live up to, and so on. So for me, those years were really, really formative and allowed me to just grow into a person and experience a lot of things that I hadn't before. So I'm forever grateful for that.
Excellent.
Raquel, you were going to say something?
You're going to say something, Raquel?
Come back to my second thing.
Okay.
And if I can do it now, it's just to say that I suppose my second favorite memory from this one would be my teenage years, would have been family reunion. I have 4 sisters, 3 sisters, 4 of us girls, and we're very close. But even more than that, every 3 years or so, we would have had a family reunion and all the relatives would have piled in. And I can remember there were times when there were 30 of us inside the house and we just slept wherever. And whenever we came together, it would have been a time of sharing our deepest secrets. And we would all huddle up on the bed, probably 8 or 9 or 10 of us on the bed, just talking about things. Then you'd hear my auntie slippers coming down the hall and everybody would go shh, 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 shh. So precious.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, for myself, 2 memories, and they both kind of play on each other. Like yourself, Yolande, I actually grew up with a sister, but our mom died when I was very young. I was a child, and we had different fathers. So her father came and took her, and she went to Canada to live, and I remained in Antigua with some extended families. So when I got to about second form, my best friend that I had from first form and we met with some other girls who weren't in the same first forms as us, and we formed a clique. We call yes, we did. We were called the LPs. I won't go into what the LPs meant, but
I want to know what the LP is.
we
the
called the
LPs and the
LPs.
trailer load.
Yes, and we remained friends, and we happened to have been in the same form every time, from second form right up to fifth form, and we remained friends. Even so that after high school graduation, I think only 2 of us were left in Antigua at the time. Everybody spread. But when I did my first year of A levels, I never did my 2 years. I did 1 year, and then I migrated to the States, and I lived with 2 of them as well. And over the years, we've kept contact. And as you get older, you don't lose contact, but you don't have the time to be as as before. But thank goodness for technology, and we reunited and had our WhatsApp group. It went from emails to WhatsApp came in. We're like, yes, WhatsApp, So
the
we created,
load is
yes,
reunited
that's
too.
right. So we created our LPs WhatsApp group, and we're still friends. And for my birthday in January, there we had a party on Zoom, and so we have been friends for Almost 30 years, even though I'm 25.
You time travel.
Yes, we've been friends for a long time. So that's one memory that I have that I'm very happy for, and I'm glad we've maintained those links. But a part of that memory in terms of the sisterhood was, as I mentioned, my sister and I were separated when our mother died when I was young, and in 2001, I had we lost touch. Yeah, in 2001, I went to perform in Canada as part of a performing arts group, dancing, and I went as a part of a contingent from Antigua. There was like steel band people and singers and dancers and all of that sort of stuff. And the Antiguan Association in Toronto, um, came and like hosted us and things like that. And I just casually said, "Do you know this gentleman?" Which was my sister's father's name. And they're like, "Yes." And long story short, he found my sister, gave my sister my contact information, and she called me. And when I was at University of the West Indies, she got married in 2005, and I left school and went to Canada to be a part of her wedding. That was the first time I had seen her since we were kids. It was like 20 years. Yes. So that's my all-time favorite memory. So yeah, those are the two best memories that I had from that time period. And moving right along, ladies, I mean, I get too emotional. They say that age brings wisdom. What are some lessons, one or two lessons that you've learned as you've matured that you didn't quite learn when you were in your 20s or teenage years that you think is important? I'll go with Yolande.
Um, I'm not sure. So this is not me answering the question, what advice I want to give to myself. Because here, I want to read out. I asked these girls on the Triller Load chat today, what advice you think I should give to my younger self? And you want to hear what they told me. So I'm going to leave that for a wee bit and just say, um, I honestly, Tessa, as I've said earlier, for me, I'm the same. I feel like my mindset has always been the same.
So
And so for I haven't really found anything that I want to say to myself that I wouldn't have said back then.
no, it's not what you would have said. Is like, have you learned? Is there like one particular lesson that you've learned since you've matured that maybe you didn't learn then? Even in terms
Mhm.
of a lesson about friends, or a lesson about going after my dreams, or a lesson about
Right. Well, okay.
anything.
I get you. I've been sidetracked. Sorry.
No
I
worries.
suppose for me,
I'll go to Raquel and come back to you, Yolanda. You can have a
yeah.
rethink. Yes, Raquel, have you learned any particular lessons since you've matured that you didn't think you would have learned back then?
Yeah, I suppose I have learned that you should prize the people who prize you.
Okay.
I
Yes, that's a
always
good
learned that.
lesson. That's a good lesson. But that's what she has learned since she's matured.
I'm messing with her. That's
That's a good
because I
lesson.
can't come up. That's because for me, I've learned all the lessons from very young, love. I'm good.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, what
Very
about you,
good.
Angela?
I think I learned as I was growing up to have a filter on what I say, because I think I remember when I was very, very young, like in my primary school, I had no filter. I said
I
it.
find it hard to believe.
I
I
I
said
know.
what I said. It was like kind of no, I used to get in trouble. I'd say stuff that was unnecessary. I tell it like it is. And I hear stories from my aunties and extended family about some of the stuff I said. Like, I really said that. But as I grew up, life experiences, things that were going on, and the whole, maybe learning to put on a mask to get on, I think I kind of grew into you got to put a filter on what you say, where to the point that it's now kind of the natural place to be, and sometimes I have to unfilter so that I can actually get the message across that I wanted to say. So I think I learned that as I was growing up. And I also, as I look back now, in my adult years, looking back to when I was maybe in my secondary schools, going to my college, going into the early years of university, I feel that in many ways I was really, really blessed and favored to have things land on my lap. So work I never really struggled for. Studies, couldn't have afforded it, but got scholarships and all that sort of stuff. And until I hit my sort of early 20s, I think I felt that everything was just going to happen. And then I had a really nasty experience in my workplace in my early 20s that threw me out of that naivety, that let me realize that it's not going to land on your lap. You got to fight for what you want. And as I grow up in life, I wish I'd known that at an earlier stage, that things don't just happen for you. You got to make it happen. That's a lesson that I learned, and I keep learning as I continue my adult years too.
Yeah. I think for myself, one of the lessons I've learned is your journey is your journey, and don't compare your journey to your friends or your family or anybody else's. Because sometimes in life you might think that, oh, why didn't I have this easy, or why didn't I do this, or why am I not at this place, or why can't I do this or that or whatever. When you're busy looking over there, you're not looking at, on your own path. So I think just learning to understand that my journey is my journey, and however it looks is just how it looks, and also that I don't have to explain myself to people. If I feel like what I'm doing, and in a very narrow sense, I'm not saying just do anything crazy and don't explain myself to people. I mean, like, if I know why I'm doing something or what I want to get, not allow myself to be distracted by anybody else's opinion or anybody else's fear, because people can let their fear become your fear, or try to make their fear become your fear. And you have to really sit with yourself and say, well, is this really my fear or concern, or are they putting their fears on me? So those are two important lessons that I've learned personally. And just in terms of wrapping up, ladies, because we're coming to the end, is there anything you would change from that time period if you could? And if you could, would you, or would you not? Why? I'll start with Raquel.
Well, I'm going to take the opportunity to actually share what two of our subscribers have said.
Okay.
One of our subscribers said that the lesson she has learned, or the lesson that she would say to her younger self, would be, don't take yourself too seriously. Life is the journey. It's to be enjoyed, not endured. So I think that's very profound.
I love that one.
Very rich.
Right. I like that one.
And
Excellent.
the other subscriber said she would say to her younger self, listen to your mother.
Yeah.
Which is a brilliant one. Listen to
everybody says that. If I did only listen. If I did listen.
That's true. That's true. Well, those are two very good bits of advice. And you, Yolande?
Well,
you want to go to what the Triller Load girl said now?
Yeah, well, to answer your question directly, if I would change anything, the answer is no, first of all, because if I change things, I won't be me. And so most of the lessons I've learned, most of the experience has made me who I am, in the words of Faith Evans. I love that song.
Yes.
Made me who I am. The rain has made me who I am. So in terms of the advice I would give to my younger self, this is what the Triller Load girls say I should say. Learn to tell my parents the truth. And I shall refrain from explaining the context.
No.
And so in terms of me ignoring them, I shall put them aside. They're not really important right now. They're talking nonsense. So the advice that I will give to myself, if I were to look that little girl in the mirror, teenager, and to give her a piece of advice, it probably would be dream big. Dream big.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Good one.
And you, Angela?
Yeah, I echo that. I would have told my late teen self to be fearless, to look for opportunities everywhere and take them, and not to be so focused. I think when I was growing up, it was, education conditioned you to a particular way. So I was book-wise, but in some ways streetwise. But there were some things that I could have taken advantage of, could have learned more about the world, learn more about business, learn more about commerce, learn more about investment, all of those things. I would have said to my late teens into my early 20s, you need to be investing, you need to be thinking about business, you need to be thinking about opportunities everywhere, you need to be fearless, dream big, go get it. That's what I would have said.
Brilliant. To my preteen self, I would say, you're not going to be there forever, and things definitely get better.
Yes.
To my teenage self, I'd say, don't bother with that boy.
You lie.
I'd also say,
It's true, Natasha. It's true. I should have tell myself that. Don't bother with plenty
hey,
of
I
them
called no
boys.
names. I called no
Plenty.
names. Just that boy. No, but seriously, I'd also actually say the idea that you had about recording all those older people in your family, you should have gone for it, but there's still time. There's still time. So when you can, record this information and make sure you keep all of your documents in one place. Do not lose your documents.
This is deep, love. That is
Yeah,
really deep.
yes, because trying to find things now is like crazy. And to my early 20s self, I'll just say, you're doing fine. What you're doing now is preparing you for what you didn't even know it's coming. But just keep going on that road, and you're even stronger than you think. And yeah, thanks for keeping good notes with those poetry books, because they're gonna come in handy. That's what I was
Oh,
saying.
very good.
This is well thought out. That was well
Very good.
And
Yeah.
just in the final wrap, ladies, what advice would you give to someone who is that age now that you were just reflecting on?
Oh boy.
Angela, I'll give Yolanda a minute. Let's go with Angela.
I would say the same. I would say, yes, if you're studying, great, carry on studying, but study life. Study the world, study economics, study business, study everything. Don't think you're too young to start buying property, to start investing in stocks and shares. Don't think you're young. Prepare for your future. Take every opportunity. The opportunities all around you. Just look for those opportunities. Your creativity, let it flow. What's within you, just go for it. Be fearless. That's what I would say.
Fearless, that's a good one. And Raquel?
I would say to my teenage 20s self, you are God's gift to the world. Or to somebody who is that age now, you are God's gift to the world. You have so much potential inside of you, so much that this world needs. Don't take it for granted. Let it out, let it shine, let this world benefit from what you've got inside of you.
Excellent. And Yolanda?
Well, listen, I'm a rebel by nature. So me, I'll be telling my grandbaby or anybody at that age, live. Be you. Be yourself. And if that self is the girl that want to polish her nails and wear bright red lipstick, wear it. And if that girl is the girl that want to be a lawyer, be a lawyer. And if you don't want to be yourself. Be true to yourself, because that's all you can do at the end of the day. And for me, even if the experiences are going to be bad, I'm going to say, baby girl, experience is the greatest teacher. I know you'd want to avoid some bad experiences. And no matter how much your parents tell you, you're not going to listen. They just don't sometimes. So for me, I'm going to speak in parables. My parents spoke in parables. You will learn. You will learn.
The advice I give to someone that age, whether it's late teens or in their 20s, I'll just say, live out loud. Don't make yourself small. Take up space. If you want to travel, travel. If you want to pursue your artistic talents or your academic talents or your career goals, do that. Just live out loud, live big, take up space, be fearless. Just go after it. You will get it. And yeah, just keep grinding. Just keep grinding. Find your joy, find your peace, and hold on to that while remaining true to yourself. That's what I would say.
Pastor, can I just say, just following on from what both you and Yolande said there about experiences and so on, and the teenage stuff, uh, actually yesterday I was speaking to a bunch of teenagers, and I was saying to them, yes, somebody said that experience is the best teacher, but you don't necessarily have to learn from bad experiences if you learn from other people's bad experiences.
Yes.
So open your eyes and see those who have gone ahead of you. See them. Yes, their successes, but see their mistakes too and learn from it, because you don't have to necessarily go down that path as well.
Exactly.
Stand on the shoulders
Exactly.
of giants and see further than where you are right now.
I
It's
agree
funny because when
totally.
we were preparing for this, I actually thought of a Jamaican proverb, and what you've just said reminded me of it. Take sleep and mark dead. So learn from the experiences of those around you to teach you about how to be.
Yeah.
Excellent. And thank you, ladies, so much for a very candid conversation. I hope that some of the things that we remembered and we thought about proves useful to people who are those ages right now. And I just want to thank the audience as well for joining us, and we hope that we've been entertaining for you, but that also you've learned something about us as well during this light episode. Coming up in our season 2, episode 4. Would it be episode the next episode? Yes,
Episode 4.
episode
Yes.
4. We'll be focusing on International Women's Day, and we have a lineup of lovely young ladies who will be on our panel as well to talk to you guys about the theme of International Women's Day and the different things that they're doing within their personal lives. So find us on our social media platforms. We are at On Mute Now on Facebook, Twitter, we are at On Mute Now 1, and on Instagram as well at On Mute Now. If you have any thoughts that you'd like to share with us, any questions, you can email us at onmutenow1@gmail.com, and find us on our audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever you listen to find podcasts. But that has been us at On Mute Now podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.
Bye.